Are you Real ID ready? The clock is ticking, and if you don't have one by this time next year, you could be out of luck at the airport. After several pandemic pauses, you'll finally need it to travel starting next year.
All right, and if you don't have one or aren't sure if you do, you're definitely not alone. Fox 5's Sharon Crowley has what you need to know.
I wanted one so I could travel, and they have a 3D picture on it, and it's a better form of ID.
This New Yorker says she's ready, and he is too.
I remember coming here to make sure I got one in time. The deadlines got pushed, so it didn't really matter, but I'm happy I have one.
But data shows many other travelers may not know. This time next year, the federal government will require a real ID or valid passport to board a domestic flight. The Real ID Act was passed by Congress in 2005. Lawmakers took the advice of the 9/11 Commission, who suggested creating federal standards for identification.
You either have a Real ID, which has a star on it, or you have an enhanced driver's license, which has a flag on it, or you have a passport.
In order to get a Real ID, you have to go to the DMV in person. This is not something you can do through the mail. And once you're there, you have to have proof of U.S. citizenship and proof that you're a resident of the state that you live in.
You have to make sure if you've had any name changes that those are all accounted for as well. And that's one of the problems that we often see trip people up.
Implementing this new law has had several setbacks, including the pandemic. It's why the New York State DMV and others are trying to get the word out a year in advance.
It's certainly something you want to have in your wallet if you're going to be planning a trip in a year that's going to require a flight.
AAA Northeast urging travelers not to wait to the last minute to get one of these Real IDs to avoid having to delay or cancel travel plans.
I think it's going to create hassles for people because they're going to get caught off guard and not ready for that.
In Midtown, Sharon Crowley, Fox 5 News.
This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. While I've been covering the digital ID that's getting rolled out in other countries, remember, they're doing this differently in different countries, but it's ultimately the same exact thing. In America, we're getting closer to the rolling out of the Real ID. Now, when you listen to the propaganda that's out there, they literally want you to think it's nothing more than the same exact license. All you have to do is just go get another one. You got to go to the DMV, okay? That's a requirement, and get a new license. And the difference is they'll just put a little pentagram in the top right corner. Of course, they choose the pentagram. Why wouldn't they choose the pentagram as the logo or the identification for the Real ID? That's what they're telling people. And as of next year at this time in 2025, you will not be able to fly domestically without a Real ID. They're forcing everyone into compliance of a Real ID. Now, this began after that event on the 11th day of September that, of course, the same people who want the digital ID are the ones responsible for problem, reaction, solution. And when they passed this bill back in 2005, we're in 2024. In 2005, when they passed this, people were saying, well, this is a good idea, because everybody felt like the boogeyman was going to show up in their backyard. So maybe it's a good idea to have some type of national ID, which is really what it is. They call it the Real ID. It's a national ID. So people then thought it was a good idea, and conservatives specifically thought it was a good idea, and conservatives still think it's a good idea, but they don't understand what this is really about, which is biometrical data. This is biometrics. This is a biometric ID that will eventually just be transitioned into a digital ID, but it's biometrical data. So in other words, facial recognition will be a part of the Real ID. And people out there don't have a clue about what that means. They don't have a clue about giving the federal government control over the state. Most people just go, well, I already have a driver's license. What's the difference, right? Well, there's a big difference. The big difference is the biometrics involved. Now, Republicans are on board with this. Why? Well, Republicans are on board with it because that's how psychological operations work, right? And all the Republicans hear about is how illegal aliens are voting in our country. Instead of saying to themselves, hey, you know what? I don't think our vote actually counts. It doesn't matter if they're letting illegals in or not. Your vote doesn't count in the first place. That's how they should be thinking, but they aren't thinking like that. In fact, there's real easy solutions to prove to us that our vote counts. They can film every single person going up and writing in a ballot and show it to us on TV. Oh, what? Is that an invasion of people's privacy? Oh, that's an invasion of their privacy. But this isn't, right? Coming up with a real ID. So for those of you that don't know, here's a clip that aired in New Jersey a couple of years ago about this ID. And most people just see it and they go, well, okay, what's the difference? I'm going to have my name on there. I have a photo on there. The only difference is I'm going to get a star in the top corner. But they don't realize that they're going to be able to use facial recognition software, which puts this in place for them with the new stuff that they're going to roll out with the carbon footprint, etc. Okay, you're going to be tracked and monitored. Your face is going to be in this database with this real ID, which is really just going to be a digital ID. And you will be locked out of places, all this stuff that they have planned for us that nobody's thinking about because they still think, oh, you know, the outbreak is over. That's never going to happen again. They're forgetting how the government was behaving, how tyrannical they are right now and were then. And with this in place in 2025, this gives them more control over our movements and our lives. This is a clip that aired in New Jersey a couple years ago.
The Real ID law was passed back in 2005 on recommendation of the 9/11 Commission, ostensibly to make it harder for terrorists to get state driver's licenses. But it's taken a decade for the Department of Homeland Security to finally get around to enforcement. Now, residents in some states may no longer be able to use their driver's licenses or State Motor Vehicle Commission IDs to get into federal facilities or even to board domestic flights. Among other things, the law requires motor vehicle agencies to provide space for an applicant's full first name, take applicants' photos at the beginning of the process, and run facial recognition software. Right now, New Jersey's MVC is in compliance with just that last requirement. As for the others, we've been recognized for enhancing the security of our driver's licenses and IDs, and will continue to offer secure documents to New Jersey residents, said a spokesperson today. Compliance with the law would mean that your personal information, like Social Security numbers and copies of birth certificates, would be available to other motor vehicle agencies and thus thousands of their employees across the country. But some privacy advocates say Real ID is really just an end-around attempt by the federal government to create a national ID card.
All states would issue uniform cards, and back-end databases would share information about drivers and ID holders nationally. The Department of Homeland Security is trying to drive compliance by threatening to withhold acceptance of licenses from non-complying states at TSA when people go to travel. So that's a national ID, and it's being pushed by the federal government on the states.
Some states are balking at the requirements for this very reason. But New Jersey, we expect to work diligently to be in compliance by the October 2016 deadline, said the spokesperson. In addition to the potential privacy vulnerabilities, the law, in 10 years of non-enforcement, has already cost a lot of money, says the Cato Institute's Jim Harper.
Congress has spent almost $500 million over the last 10 years on various identification and biometric programs. That is money spent to track all of us. Now, some of them may have some security benefits, but on the whole, tracking law-abiding American citizens fails a cost-benefit analysis. That is, it spends more money than it delivers in security or other benefits.
TSA referred our questions to DHS, but DHS wouldn't comment. As for you, if you've got travel plans for the new year, you should be okay. But unless New Jersey changes course, you could ultimately be forced to share a lot more of your personal information if you want to fly or even visit your congressman's office, all in the name of national security.
So the Real ID is the digital ID in a sense. You will have a physical card, okay? You will have a physical card, but it's a transition. Like I always talk about transitioning, right? They've been transitioning the technology to get in your body. You might say, how have they been doing that? Well, it started with a big phone, right? A cell phone, like Zach Morris's cell phone on Saved by the Bell. Then the phone got smaller and smaller and easier to carry. Then it was a flip phone. Then it just turned into the iPhone. Then the iPhone turned into what? Earbuds, talking on the phone in your earbuds or on your Apple Watch or your Apple Lens. Smaller, smaller, smaller until it's literally implantable inside of you. This is a transition. The Real ID is the beginning of biometric surveillance. That's what it's the beginning of. And they used the 11th day of September, just like they used that day for the Patriot Act, to strip us of our rights, which is part of the reason they committed that mass sacrifice that still to this day, which is amazing, most conspiracy theorists out there are identified as conservatives. They're in bed with the same synagogue of Satan who were responsible for that day, but they can't think about that. They can't think about that because, remember, they're chosen people. They could do whatever they want, so we're told. So if we take a look at the biometric computers and how this is going to work, they're going to be able to automatically identify individuals based on unique physical characteristics. Many nation states, municipalities, organizations, schools, and businesses are already using biometrics like facial recognition, digital fingerprinting, and iris recognition. The result is a slow, methodical, global enrollment process, filling databases with personal biometric information. That's what it's about. I understand why people look at this and they say, I already have a license. It's just like getting a new real license. What's the difference? It is not. It is not. And when people start realizing how they've made us all comfortable with the internet, everybody's always on the internet. I'm on the internet right now. When they decide that they're going to pull the internet away from you, you're going to go, I can't go without the internet. I can't live without the internet. How am I going to function? My banking, everything else, right? They've done all that by design so that you become compliant into getting your digital identity, which in a sense starts with your real ID. And you won't be able to even post a comment on the internet. You won't be able to shop on the internet. And guess what? You'll go, well, I won't shop on the internet. I'll go to Walmart. Well, you're not going to be able to go into any of these stores anymore. Everything's going to be forced onto the internet so that you live in your home and you lock yourself in your home with your carbon footprint, and every purchase you make goes through the internet. So you'll need the internet. You won't be able to buy or sell without having that mark, www.666 in Hebrew. I mean, this stuff is very easy to see if you pay attention to it. Don't let people out there show you this stuff and then say, oh man, these conspiracy nuts are just looking for something else to grab onto. This is a national ID. You can look at stuff and say, well, is it my passport? Well, it's not required by law to have a passport. Most people actually don't even have passports, but a lot of people fly domestically in America just using their driver's license. And they're coming out and they're going, well, what's the big deal? Just come and get our real ID. Come and get our real ID. And conservatives are going, well, now we don't have to worry about any fraudulent activity with votes, because now these people will have to present that, even though we know that that won't be the case, even though your vote doesn't count in the first place. So this is supposed to start in 2025, and it doesn't look like they're going to push off anymore. And why would they push off? In other years, they pushed off because they study us like animals at the zoo. And they saw in 2018, 2015, when they wanted this thing to be rolled out, that not enough people were dependent on the internet. Not enough people were going to go along with it. There was pushback. There is no pushback now. They are convincing everybody through false flags and psychological operations that this is what they need. And it's a scam. It's a federal scam. Okay, so once in effect, the federal scheme will ban adults from domestic flights unless they comply, replacing their traditional state ID with a real national ID. And this will also extend a citizen's ability to access federal facilities. What does that mean? Well, it starts with words like federal facilities, then it turns into hospitals, then it turns into groceries, then it turns into buying and selling online. This is not something that is going to improve national security. What this is going to do is continue to set up this surveillance state. And again, I've said this before, and I understand the mindset of somebody out there who's a sheeple, and they look at this stuff and they say to themselves, what do I care? What do I care? If I'm not doing anything wrong. That's the mindset they want you to have so that you're compliant. But trust me, those of us who know what global communism is, those of us who have been warning people about things before they happen, like the event that occurred a few years ago where people were locked in their homes and wearing diapers on their face, we know where this is headed. And eventually, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. It doesn't matter. You could be the greatest packer of fudge on the planet. Okay, you could be walking around with your Ukraine flag. They're not going to care. Once we start giving them full control over everything, they will turn on the people who think that they're working for them. They are tyrants. They are psychopaths. And by giving them control of things like this with biometric data, the common sheep out there will hear that and they'll be like, well, that's great. Maybe we could prevent more crimes from flying. Oh, somebody's a criminal who broke out. These are ways they'll market it to you. Oh, but because of the biometrics, etc., this person wasn't even able to get to an airport, to get on a plane, to flee the country. All these stories that they produce are to convince you of what they want, which is full control over our lives. And anyone out there doesn't think so? I mean, were you paying attention a couple years ago? Were you paying attention to every single lie that they came out with, how they flip-flopped over and over and over again about what you needed to do, how you needed to comply? If you went and did this, you would be fine. Then once you went and did that, you got to go again. Then you got to go again and again and again and again and again and again. And then these people still haven't gotten suspicious of what these people are up to, right? So some of the organizations out there that are privacy advocates are comparing the Real ID and the single national database housing people's data to the creeping undermining of privacy and expansion of surveillance that happened in comparable past scenarios. It says, quote, remember the social security number started innocuously enough, it was quiet enough, but it has become a prerequisite for a host of government services and been co-opted by private companies to create massive databases of personal information. Okay? So if you don't know what that means, your social security number was really just created, they told us, to prove your existence, being a citizen, etc. You can't do anything without your you can't apply for a job. You can't look up your credit score without using your social security number. You can't get cable without your social security number, right? Think about how often you give your social security number now. You probably sit there and go, I don't even know. Do I give it? You don't even realize it because you give it so often that it just rolls off. It used to be something that you did not share with anybody. You didn't share. You didn't get on the phone and say, hey, I'd like to hook up my my internet and my cable in my home. And they go, what's your social security number? You'd be like, I don't want to give that. Well, now people just give it away. And they know that people are more compliant. They know that people don't understand because they've dumbed people down so much so that we're giving all of our rights over to these people. And with technology and control, right? Think about this. Think about how we have technology that could lock your car, lock your home, shut off your air, all this smart technology, okay, monitoring you with biometrical surveillance through your ID here, which again is called the Real ID, but will be the digital ID. Even the fact that we're allowing the government to tell us that we can't fly domestically without it, then they go, well, you can go and get a passport, right? Okay, until when? 2030? They'll let you still use your passport so they don't scare you witless here. So you go, oh my gosh, what? So, okay, I could still use my passport. Well, a lot of people don't have a passport, okay? And eventually they're gonna go, well, now your Real ID is your passport, right? Because you'll no longer need a passport with a digital ID because you'll be a global citizen. So you won't need a passport. You won't need a passport to go to Hong Kong. You don't need a passport to go to Australia. Because the government will go, your digital ID has all of it in there. In fact, it has your status if you have a magic potion in you. It has your bank information in there. It has everything so that you can't hack or be hacked unless, of course, we're talking about you being hacked by us, the government, which is really what the goal is. So lots of stories are coming out in the last week or so, prepping people for the Real ID. I just covered what was going on in Australia with the digital ID. Some countries, different names. It's a national ID. So if you're wondering what it is and you're going, what is it? It's a national ID. Your driver's license is not necessarily a national ID. The national ID then filters into a global ID, okay? The digital ID is going to be required in every single country, and they're going to make another outbreak, okay? That's the point of these outbreaks, so that they could track and monitor the outbreak and tell you that it's because of somebody coughing, that everybody needs to be fully tracked digitally through biometrics. And people go, oh, I don't really care. Yeah, you will care. I promise you, you will care in the future. Because the way they want you to live, no matter whatever you believe, whether you're straight, gay, whatever you believe is going on, okay? They have a way and a plan that they want us to live. They want us to live like modern day slaves through the technology. They don't want you out in public. They don't want you at their national parks or their beaches. They want you locked in your home with their full-on propaganda under their thumb 24/7. And they don't care if you kiss their rear end and you say, but I do all the stuff you tell me to do. I even named my daughter Baphomet and I castrated my son. They aren't going to give a crap. Yes, do they live that way? Yeah, they do. But they don't care about you, and they're not going to care about you in the future. They're using you. to strip away our rights. So most Democrats out there don't realize that the stuff that they're doing is destroying the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. They think what they're doing is, following the rule of the law, even though they're taking away free speech and things like that by saying it's hate speech. The other side, same thing. Everybody out there needs to wake up. Okay, this is what sabotage looks like. They're creating all this sabotage just like they did on the 11th day of September so they could get this bill passed in 2005. So they could get the Patriot Act passed around the same time period, right? So then little by little we go, wait a minute, I don't have the right. Wait, they're listening to me? Huh? What? I don't know. I guess I shouldn't care. You should care. It's a national ID. And the next step is a global ID. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.